Hey beauties, welcome back to the show. Tonight I'm going to do my makeup because I have another shoot after this. So tonight, if you've had a rough day and need a little time just for yourself, grab your skincare or makeup and join me while I share some spooky real life stories. You know what? Let's just make this our little ritual every Tuesday and Friday night, okay? Tonight's story comes from a girl named Lynn, which is not her real name, and she is one of my lovely subscribers who lives in East Khasi Hills, Meghalaya, in the northeast of India. This is about her real experience with a spirit. It's something that she went through herself. And even now, when she thinks about that night, she says her heart sinks and she feels like she can't breathe, like something is pressing on her chest and tightening around her throat. So what exactly happened to her? What did she see? Let's dive right into today's story. She remembers the air that night, cold enough to sting her skin, and the sickening feeling that something was standing right next to her, even though she couldn't see it. That fear has never really gone away, and Lynn isn't someone who scares easily. She's always been friendly, chatty, the type to strike up conversations with strangers and laugh loudly with friends. But after that night, things were different. Now, on quiet nights, she sometimes finds herself staring out the window into the darkness, thinking, what if it comes back? That thought alone is enough to make her skin crawl. So what exactly happened to her? Even though she still feels uneasy talking about this story, she decided to share her story with us. Lynn's aunt had spent years saving every bit she could, all for one dream, her own home. It took several years just to buy the land and even longer to finish building the house. But when it was finally done, it stood on a quiet hill at the edge of the village, with green forest stretching out below the windows. Her aunt moved in with her two sons and decided to throw a housewarming party. That day, the place was full of people, relatives, neighbors, and friends. Lynn and her parents came too, curious to see the new home for the first time. The walls still smelled faintly of fresh paint. The floors shone under the light. From the kitchen, the smell of food drifted out, mixing with the sound of laughter and voices. It was warm, happy, and full of life. And no one there could have guessed that soon this house would be the setting for something none of them would ever forget. The living room was filled with constant laughter, and people drifted between the kitchen and the yard sharing food and drinks. Children dashed through the house, exploring every corner of the new place, while Lynn stayed in the yard, catching up with cousins she hadn't seen in a long time. That evening felt like one of the warmest, brightest moments in Anne's life. But when the party ended and guests slowly headed home, a sudden stillness settled over the house. At her aunt's invitation, Lynn and her mother decided to stay the night. She felt it was a strange place, but after a whole day of eating, laughing, and talking, Lynn fell asleep almost instantly. The next morning, after breakfast and a quick shower, she and her mother set off for home. As the car neared the village entrance, her mother spoke up in a cautious tone. That house, something about it felt off. I don't know why, but it gave me chills. Lynn looked over and laughed. Come on, Mom, you're just not used to it yet. It's a brand new house. Her mother nodded silently, but her face stayed unusually tense. Back then, Lynn didn't think much of it. She didn't know that her mother's quiet words were more like a warning of what was to come. And that house, which had been full of laughter that night, would soon become the stage for a fear Lynn and her family would never forget. A few months after the housewarming, Lynn and her mother ended up staying at her aunt's house for a month or two due to family circumstances. They were given one of her cousin's rooms, and he moved in with his older brother to share his room. So the first few days were peaceful. From the windows, they could see green hills and forest. And in the evenings, the sound of crickets filled the air. And every morning, the smell of warm tea drifted from the kitchen. It felt almost like a countryside getaway. Then one night, Lynn woke up needing to use the bathroom. It was on the first floor, at the bottom of the stairs right next to the kitchen. She quietly made her way down the stairs, took care of what she needed to do, and she flushed. And up to that moment, nothing actually happened. Everything felt normal, calm, still, and safe. But as she started back up the stairs, something shifted. 2 steps up, she felt it. A subtle but undeniable change in the air. It was the middle of summer, but a sudden chill brushed against Lynn's cheek, like cold steam sliding over her skin. At the same moment, from the direction of the kitchen door beside the stairs, she felt something, that strange, suffocating sense of being watched. She slowly turned her head. The kitchen was dark, no light, no movement, nothing in sight. And yet a shiver ran down her spine. As she lifted her foot to take another step, she felt something right behind her. She felt a presence that was so close. Its weight seemed to press against her back. It was almost like hearing footsteps, matching hers, moving up the stairs in perfect time. Someone's climbing the stairs with me. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, but she didn't dare look back. If it was a person, or worse, not a person at all, she did not want to know what she might see. She took the remaining steps almost at a run, burst into the bedroom, and only then she let out the breath she'd been holding. But even in the safety of the room, the echo of those phantom footsteps clung to her ears. She couldn't sleep. She lay awake for hours, unable to shake the thought that whatever it was might still be waiting in the dark below. A few nights later, it happened again, but this time not to Lynn. It was late. Her mother quietly said she was going to the bathroom, slipped out of the room, and closed the door behind her. Minutes passed. Then hurried footsteps came pounding down the hallway, and the door flew open. Her mother's face was pale as paper, her breath short and uneven. "Lynn, I was going up the stairs, and I swear something was right behind me." Her voice trembled low. At first I thought I was imagining it, but with every step, this thing got closer. By the time I reached the middle, I could feel cold air right against my back. I couldn't turn around. I was afraid something would be staring right at me. Lynn felt her stomach knot. It meant what she'd experienced wasn't just exhaustion or some trick of the mind. From that night, the two made a pact: never use the bathroom alone after dark. Always call each other's name before opening a door. Turn on the stairway light and shine a phone flashlight. And when climbing up, count the steps out loud, just to break the silence. But even then, there were nights when the air on the stairs turned heavy. Halfway up, they would feel a breath of cold sweep past their necks. And from the kitchen, dishes would clink softly for no reason. Sometimes, a faint floral scent drifted by, like someone had just brushed past wearing perfume. It was the kind of presence you could sense, but never see. They once tried telling their aunt, but she just shook her head. You're just not used to the house. And when you're tired, you start imagining things. She flung the window open for fresh air. It's just dampness making the air feel cold, that's all. But Lynn and her mother knew better. That cold wasn't from any draft. It had weight. It had intent. From then on, the two often lay awake, taking turns watching over each other asleep. They would stare at the crack under the door, where darkness from the hallway spilled in. And sometimes, at the exact same moment, both would turn their heads toward it. It always felt like something on the other side was holding its breath with them, just waiting. And then one night, after tossing and turning for what felt like hours, Lynn finally closed her eyes. And that is when the dream began. It wasn't just any dream, it was the upstairs hallway. And from the far end, she could hear someone slowly climbing the stairs, calling her name. So to give you a more detailed scene from the dream, Lynn was standing in the upstairs hallway of her aunt's house, except it felt longer than real life and unnaturally still. Below the railing, the staircase sank into a pool of darkness, and from within that darkness came a soft, steady sound. Step, step. A woman emerged, long black hair, a white dress with tiny pink flowers. She climbed the stairs slowly, her eyes fixed on Lynn, a calm smile touching her lips. Without speaking, she lifted her hand and gestured toward the balcony. Out on the balcony stood a small vintage tea table. Its polish dulled with age, two worn chairs pulled close together. Thin china cups rested neatly on matching saucers, and the air carried the faint scent of tea leaves. The lace curtains swayed gently, as if breathing. The woman poured tea into Lynn's cup, and the soft clink of porcelain rang in the night air. "I am Lucy Lee," she said, her voice low and even. "A long time ago, I lived here." She told Lynn she was the daughter of a wealthy family in the 1800s. And one evening, while she returned home, she was abducted and never to leave alive. Her body had been dismembered and buried beneath what was now the kitchen floor. Since then, I've never left. The seasons change, strangers come and go, but I remain. Her gaze drifted toward the forest beyond the balcony, then back to Lynn. "That's why this place became mine." She explained that whenever people moved into this land, built a house there, dismantled a house, and built a new one, the quiet she had clung to over a century was disturbed. So she began to sense small signs, the feeling of footsteps behind you on the stairs, a soft knock of dishes in the kitchen, a faint floral scent lingering in the doorway. "I never meant to harm you. I just didn't want to be forgotten." And when she said that, Lynn could hear the sound of an old pocket watch ticking, steady. Lucy Lee set her cup down carefully and smiled. "The sun is setting. You should go back now." When she stood, the air around the balcony seemed lighter. Lynn asked without thinking, Why tell me this?" Lucy Lee didn't answer. She simply tilted her head as if there were more she would say another time. And then, like the faint echo of footsteps, she was gone. And just before dawn, Lynn woke up to the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. The first pale light was spilling through the window, and in the air lingered that faint, sweet scent of tea, the same scent from her dream. And stepping out onto the balcony, she froze. On the small tea table, two overlapping rings of moisture marked the wood, as if a pair of teacups had been set there moments ago and only just lifted away. And somewhere far in the direction of the kitchen came a distant ticking sound. Tick-tock. The house had no such clock. She returned to bed, unsettled, and drifted back into sleep, only to find herself once again in the upstairs hallway, the same balcony before her, and Lucy Lee waiting there. Lynn's voice was cautious. She asked again, "Why me?" Lucy's lips curved into a soft, knowing smile. "Because you can see me, because you can hear me. And even when you're afraid, you don't close the door." She paused, then added quietly, "Sometimes a bond forged through breath runs deeper than one forged through blood." Before Lynn could ask what she meant, the light in the dream began to fade, and she woke up to her mother saying she'd heard the clink of teacups in the kitchen. Later that day, as the afternoon sun angled low, a faint circular stain appeared in the middle of the kitchen table, barely visible to the eye, as though someone long ago had set a teacup on the table right there. That night was unnaturally still. Just before sleep claimed her, a thin layer of frost crept across her window. And then, as if traced by an invisible fingertip, a message appeared. "Don't forget." The words melted within seconds, and a woman's voice whispered her name, clear, low, and close enough to feel on her skin. It was only then Lynn understood. This was never about something chasing her. It was about someone rooted in a place for more than a century calling to her. Lynn wrote down every word of the dream before it could fade from memory. And a few days later, she learned something that made her blood run cold. Almost everyone who had ever stayed in that house had seen her. The woman in the white dress with pink flowers. They had all heard the same soft steps on the stairs before dawn, the faint chime of dishes in the kitchen, the weight of a gaze that couldn't be explained. And because of those repeated, strange experiences, her cousins eventually moved out, leaving only her aunt and the maid behind. But on the very day Lynn left for the last time, a new ring of moisture appeared on the kitchen table, as if a place had been set, waiting for the next guest. Now, whenever Lynn passes near that house, her pace quickens, and sometimes on the windless streets, she hears that delicate tap of a teaspoon against porcelain, followed by a whisper, soft and patient. "Don't forget." Lucy Lee's smile and her voice still lingers just at the nape of Lynn's neck. So, what do you guys think? Was it all just her imagination, or was her aunt really living in a haunted house? But it wasn't only her who saw the girl in the flower dress, so I'm guessing this is more than just a trick of the mind. Harmless or not, the thought of a figure, something not even alive, appearing and noticing you is just plain creepy, no matter what. And you know what? Your stories are always so fascinating, so please keep sending them to me. I would love to share them with my viewers. That is a wrap for today, and see you on our next episode. Bye, guys.